everyone. Welcome back to Postscript. I'm Beth Cappello.
And I'm Christina Zeiders. And today we'll be breaking down Season 3, Episode 6 of All Creatures Great and Small, For Whom the Bell Tolls.
That's right, Christina. There's only the Christmas episode after this, and wow, I cannot believe it.
Yeah, so if you've enjoyed listening to Postscript and want to provide any feedback before we move on to the next show, please send us your thoughts.
You can email us at ps@witf.org.
Or DM us on Instagram at WITFORG and Facebook at WITF.org.
All right, Christina, are you ready to get into this episode?
Let's do it.
Man, you seem so hesitant. I wonder why. This is a tough one.
It's well, I feel like I kind of felt this coming.
Oh,
so I felt a little bit emotionally prepared for it, but it was still a rough one. Like, it's getting pretty heavy now.
I know. It still had me crying at the end.
Like, well, I mean, this season was full of just heavy episodes. Like, every other episode was heavy, at least. So, yeah.
I mean, we are, in war. So
yeah, the war is coming. I said at the beginning, the war is coming.
I think that was like one of the first things you said.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to talk all things Tristan and how Tristan grows up. And that's how we're going to start this out today.
Love it. I love Tristan. I would date him now.
I know. So would I. Although Tristan is very much like me. So I don't know if that would be a clash. It might be a clash. Surprisingly, I mean, I did get James.
What? So on New Girl, Winston dates the girl that's like really into pranks.
Okay.
Rhonda.
Okay.
It would be like that. Winston and Rhonda's relationship where you just get nothing done. You'd just always be goofing off and somehow you would get married as a prank.
That sounds fun. I still need to watch New Girl. I really do.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Okay, so we start off with Tristan starts off in this episode. He's in Scaledale, and he's getting ready to go to the Pandies for dinner. I know.
Getting serious.
Mm-hmm. Especially because the parents are making dinner.
Yes. The parents have invited him. Mm-hmm. They are meeting him.
Exactly.
That's like nerve-wracking.
It is.
I was so nervous the first time I met Matt's mom.
Really?
Oh, my God, so nervous. I still get a little bit nervous.
I was nervous, too. And we were dating, and, oh, my gosh, I went over for... what's that holiday? Thanksgiving. Yes.
The food one.
We finish each other's sandwiches. Oh my gosh. So Thanksgiving I go over and they pull out this huge binder of everything, like baby to to fifth grade or something like that.
All the
huge
pictures.
And I'm just sitting on the couch looking through all of this.
This
and
is what our children will look like one
all
day.
Of it, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And we went to school together. So like I see people from I went to school in like middle school and high school with that he went to elementary school. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're like such little babies. Like,
cute little faces.
I know. But it was really, so it was fun. But I was so nervous. And now I like talk to them all the time. I call them up and we chit chat.
That's nice.
Yeah, we're really close now. It's great.
That's really great.
I know. But I totally am like, with Tristan on this one. But then, so Siegfried is telling Tristan once again not to ruin the family name.
He has no faith in Tristan. Tristan has grown so much.
I know.
I don't know how he can't see it, but it's Siegfried
no
being
idea.
Siegfried.
And I'm so annoyed with Siegfried. Like this whole episode, I get so annoyed with him.
Yeah. He is super annoying.
I know. So then we go to the Pandy's house for dinner.
Right.
So Tristan's sitting with Flo and like and her parents, and they talk about like how Mr. Pandy met Siegfried in school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I imagine he's still the same. Yep, still the same.
Exactly the same. Never grows.
Nope. And then Tristan, being the smooth talker he is, he asks about how like they met, like the parents met, trying to get them to talk a little more, which is so cute.
Yeah. He's so good at that. Let's just give him props. He's good at including people in conversation.
Yes. Yes. And it was cute to see how he was her vet, like her cat's vet. That was really cute. So then they switch the topic to Tristan working with Siegfried. Mr. Pandy says that it's important for families to stick together.
Right.
And then the camera immediately switches to Flo. And I'm like, I don't know. I had two things. Like they've had these conversations before.
They most definitely have because she moved out and she got a job that's not vetting.
Yep. Or or she thinks like Trist should get off on his own. Like stop pushing him towards Siegfried.
Also possible.
Yeah. So I think that, but yeah. So I thought that was interesting. And then I love that like the pandies like put him on the spot. Like, this is a test.
Right. Like, what are your intentions?
What are your intentions? And I have nothing but the utmost
respect.
And then they start cracking up laughing.
They're fantastic. They're so cool. Like,
I like them.
Yeah.
I like them.
I think it's great, too. I think you can see the dynamic where Flo felt comfortable enough with her relationship with her parents to move out and do her own thing. Even though her dad doesn't fully approve, he clearly respects her anyway. So I thought that was a great way to show the dynamic.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I love that. And then we go, and after that, they go and they have a drink.
Yeah.
Because Shakti doesn't care if they drink.
Right. And so I found this really surprising. I didn't realize that some Hindus didn't drink.
I didn't know either.
But Shakti jumped out at me. And so I did a closer look on Shakti because I recognize Shakti from my yoga flows.
Ooh.
But that's about as deep as I've gone. So Shakti translates to power, essentially. And Shakti is this dynamic energy that's responsible for creation, maintenance, and destruction of the universe.
Ooh.
Yeah. Shakti is associated with feminine energy, so she's associated with a lot of Hindu goddesses and creation, mothers, that sort of aspect. And it mostly kind of refers to the manifestation of this creative destruction energy through goddesses. So some are like death and destruction. Like Kali's my favorite because Kali was created to destroy demons that the gods could not.
Huh.
So that's, if you ever have a chance just to research Kali, do it. But she went in, all the gods were trying to chop this demon up, but every drop of blood that hit the ground turned into another demon. So she went in and did what the gods did, but she lapped up the blood. So more demons couldn't spring forth. She defeated the demon. She's real fierce looking. I love her. But they can be gentle, too, like prosperity goddesses like Lakshmi. They're like the more gentle version of Shakti.
Okay.
But it balances, I didn't realize this, but it balances the, I guess it would be a masculine force of stillness. So if you need something, you pray to a goddess because she's the action. And so I thought that was really interesting. So I got this information from asiasociety.org.
Okay.
I think we're going to link in the show notes to the actual page. Oh. Because there's so much information, I can't cover it all.
You are like glowing right now with how much you love talking about this.
I love Shakti. I don't want to go into it too much because I know we have limited time, but it's a really fascinating aspect because of the balance. Like it's a quote unquote feminine energy, but it doesn't have to be a woman's energy. Like men can encapsulate Shakti too.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's so cool. I will be looking at that later.
But Shakti's fine with drinking.
It sounds like it.
And so I did not find that information in my little deeper dive, but
if you're going to destroy stuff, you got to have a drink with it.
Yeah, that's true. It's good, like, I guess St. Patrick's Day energy.
Exactly.
Drink.
Oh my gosh, this is great. So then after that, we wake up in the morning. Tristan walks in Skeldale's kitchen. Siegfried's sitting there, and he says,
"You look like you've been dragged through several hedges backwards."
It's impossible not to love someone who makes toast for you. It was great. Better than great.
You're not hungover.
No. I feel like a herd of elephants are stomping on my head, and it's not out of the question that a rodent has died in my mouth. It's all Mr. and Mrs. Bandy's fault. My God, those two can knock it back. It was all I could do to stop them from cracking open the absinthe and seeing in the dawn.
Is it possible you're still drunk?
Yes.
I can't not laugh at that.
It's
Tristan
an amazing
is great.
scene, but apparently Shakti can just knock him back.
I know. Oh my gosh, I can't. That was just so funny. And he's like, "Are you still drunk?" Possibly. I think it is.
I feel like potentially he wants to join that family because he meshes with them so much better than he does his own brother.
I know he does. Siegfried is a whole different character.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, a whole different person. So then right after that, because Siegfried is like, meh, 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 Tristan asks if Flo can come for lunch on Sunday. Siegfried goes, meh, 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 meh. Sunday lunch is family occasion. Mrs. H just gives him the look.
Right.
Just looks at Siegfried, and Siegfried, fine.
She knows that Flo's good for Tristan, and that Tristan's taking it seriously, which I think she also really likes too.
And she's like, Siegfried, like, it's Tristan. Leave him alone.
Just
stop messing with him.
Invite who he wants to invite for dinner.
Yeah, exactly. Or for even
I'm
lunch.
making dinner.
Yeah, exactly. She can have your plate, Siegfried.
Right.
You're being a jerk. So later on in the episode, we find James and Helen. And Tristan finds them, and they go to the Drovers.
Yeah.
Okay. We see that there's like some pamphlets going out for war and recruiting. Tristan and James's conversation there was like very cute. It was very brotherly, and I really liked it. And then Tristan, like Helen comes over with the drinks, and she gives James like a hug after Tristan asked James about going to like war and stuff.
Oh, right.
And if he would go, because he doesn't really answer it. And then I don't know what I noticed in Tristan's face. I mean, we always talk about the acting and how it's all about like the facial expressions.
Right.
And, like, they
say so much without any words.
And what I thought he was thinking in this moment was, do I go to war or do I marry Flo? Because of Helen and James and the hug.
Yes,
that's
because
when
he
clicked.
sees them together. That's a good observation. Yeah, because I only saw the like him kind of envying that relationship. Because they're so close.
Yeah, and he wants that.
Yeah, he does. He does.
I don't, or does he? I don't know. Like, he wants something that's his.
He does.
And, you know, he sees James and Helen are great together.
Yeah. I think he actually does want Flo.
Yeah.
Like, I think he genuinely does want her.
She's, like, perfect for him.
She is. She is. I will be so disappointed if they don't end up together.
I know.
Because they are perfect. They're perfect for each other.
Well, speaking of that, Tristan decides that he's going to go to Florence's house.
Yeah.
And he's going to ask her to marry him.
Right.
I wrote ... Come on, man.
I thought his proposal was really sweet, if not thought out well. It was not thought out well.
James's wasn't really thought out
well.
No,
that's true.
He just
bumbled through it. And he was just like, no, really, if you want to, we can.
I know. That was too funny. But, like, Tristan, you know, he had a flower, and then Flo was like, you should not be a florist.
Well, he's like,
and then
plucked it out by the roots.
I know. You should not be a florist. So then he tosses it aside. She brings tea outside. And then he goes into, like, how awesome Florence is. I mean, we all know this. Yeah. She's amazing. And then talks about how, like, Siegfried, like, has always dictated his life, like going to veterinary school, retaking his exam, joining his practice. Like, all of these things, Tristan has just been, like, molded and, I don't know, like, guided through.
He's gone along with it.
Exactly. With whatever Siegfried really wants.
Yeah.
And he wants to make his own decision, and this is it. And this is how he's going to plow my own furrow.
Which is a little offensive, and he realizes it.
Probably wouldn't say that.
I'm going to plow you.
Yeah.
But luckily she has a sense of humor.
I know. And then he gets down on, you know, one knee. And then she's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what's wrong with you?
She was not expecting this.
No, and at least she's realistic by being like, what are you doing? This is not what you want.
Yeah, I guess so. I think he really does want it. But I think she raises a lot of good points.
Oh, yeah. He has to find himself.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was really good. Like, you know, she says to him, here's what I think. I think maybe you're right about your brother. You won't be happy until you step out of his shadow. I think if we got married now, you'd never know. You need to find out who you are, and you're not going to do that by being with me.
See, I'm a romantic at heart, and I think you can do both. I think you can be with somebody and find yourself at the same time. But I appreciate what she's saying.
Yeah.
I like her too much to be mad at her.
I do like her. I don't know. I guess I can sway back and forth on both with that. Like, sometimes you just get so engulfed in the other person, and you can do everything they want and everything.
True.
And Tristan's, he already has that personality
sort of
exactly
thing,
with Siegfried.
I see
he really needs to step out on his own, learn how to set boundaries.
I guess I just really want them to be together.
You do. You do. Not the ending I really wanted for them.
Right.
But, you know, then at Skelldale House, Siegfried and Mrs. Hall are waiting for James to come back, and Tristan walks in And it's like, oh, we thought you were James. Like, again.
Disappointed.
Disappointed with Tristan's existence. And then he just goes and says, like, turns out Flo's not coming. She doesn't want to marry me. And, like, Mrs. Hall is shocked. She's like, oh, my gosh, you did this, which, you know, everybody is. And she, like, immediately goes and says sorry and tries to comfort him. Which,
the correct response to somebody saying they said no.
It's natural.
Right.
Yeah, I'm really sorry that happened. That really sucks.
Yeah.
And then Siegfried, oh, my God.
Yeah,
Siegfried,
oh, my God.
He's like, for God's sake, Tristan, what were you thinking? And that's like...
No.
He's your little
even
brother.
if you don't agree with it, he's sad right now. Like,
yeah. And then Tristan has his moment.
Yes.
Okay. He has his moment.
He stands up for himself.
I know. And he goes into how, like, James is always like the apple of Siegfried's eye and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. And let's just play that clip and then we'll go and dive into it. Okay. So, Allie, can you play that?
I'm awake, Siegfried. I feel like I've opened my eyes for the first time in my life. Maybe you should open yours too, because the world is changing, and you need to change with it. You know, one of the things I most admire about Flo, not that you've ever bothered to ask, by the way, is that she has the courage to live her own life.
I'm sorry if I made you feel like that. Nothing could be further from the truth.
The truth is that nothing I ever do will be good enough for you. I only wish I'd realized it sooner.
I will always look after you. I hope you know that.
That's just the thing. I know you will.
Ooh, I just got chills at the end.
I know.
I already heard this, but I just got chills.
I know. I've been, like, waiting for this to happen.
Right.
I've been waiting because, like, finally Tristan says how he feels. You literally, you can only take so much. And, you know, he finally tells Siegfried about, like, how crappy he's been towards him. And, like, I understand from Siegfried's point of view, he's trying to show that he cares about Tristan in just, like, all the wrong ways.
He's
it's
just
so
failing so much. And the thing that rubs me the most, and I love Siegfried, don't get me wrong, I love Siegfried, but how many times has he said, I wish I could go back in time and do things differently? Or he has these, like, realizations where he apologizes, but then he doesn't do anything different in the future. He just does not change.
He's the same person.
Which, I mean, I guess plays into that whole the world is changing and you need to change too. But, like, he just never changes. He apologizes and then he does the same thing again. It's so frustrating to watch.
It is. That's why I'm like, no wonder Tristan, like, finally goes forth and does this. And I'm really proud of Tristan for doing that. Like, he really grows up by setting that boundary with him and, you know, telling him that. But what also really ticks me off.
Grinds your gears.
Oh, my gosh. Siegfried really, really, really made me mad. Is he goes, I'm sorry if I made you feel that way. But it's like, Siegfried, Tristan literally just told you how he feels.
Right.
Like, clearly you did make him. Like, not if. That's silly little word. If I made you.
I'm sorry
Come
that
on.
I made you feel that way.
That I made you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Siegfried, you did do that. Like, he literally just told you, but.
And I think a lot of it is that Siegfried feels like he had to play the parent role, and parents tell kids what to do, but he's not, now that Tristan's not a child. Yeah. He never really was a child under his care. Mm-hmm. He's having a hard time just, like, letting Tristan, like, make his own mistakes. Ask the girl to marry him and find out no. And just, like, let him be sad about it. Like, Siegfried.
I know.
I also, like,
so frustrated.
I also feel like I just need to hold a mirror up to myself because also I am Siegfried in some situations. But, like that apology, I've done that. I'm sorry if
done it.
I
I've
made
done
you feel
it
that
too.
way. So I get it, but, like, it's so frustrating because it just happens over and over and over again.
It's literally every episode. I feel like he's just crapping on Tristan.
He says, sorry,
and then
I'm going to change, and then he
doesn't.
Yeah,
and then
that's not good.
So anyway,
but yeah, Tristan's growing so much, and call me Tris.
I know.
You can take me out for a drink. I'll buy the Drovers.
You might need that because he might be leaving the veterinary practice, so he might need some income.
But he might be becoming a man in uniform.
Sexy. All right, so with that whole Tristan breakdown, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about James and Helen's TB testing craziness.
Crazy. So crazy.
Support for all creatures, great and small, on Masterpiece is made possible locally by WITF members and by Pleasant View Communities, UPMC, Murray, and Argiers Murati Neurosurgical Associates of Lancaster.
Welcome back. Before we get into the TV testing and Mag, we got some fan mail.
Ooh!
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
So Cherry K wrote into us. She said, I have one subject that I disagree with you both on.
She disagrees with us?
Your opinion that James is a rule follower.
Oh, snap.
There are too many examples of James' rebelliousness, so I'll give you just a few from the current series. Season 1, James delivers a calf without permission and then criticizes his boss. In a later episode, he sneaks off from his birthday party to perform an operation on a cow, again, against the wishes of his employer. She has a lot of good points.
Yes.
Season 2, James goes against his love interest's father and local customs to train a dog. Then he throws a cricket game for love, finally blurting out a marriage proposal out of the blue when his nature might have preferred a more traditional proposal with ring in hand. James is a well-meaning, responsible man who tries to do the right thing, but he's also romantic in nature and lets his heart take over when it's necessary. He fights for what he believes in and isn't afraid to stand up for himself. So many good points.
I know.
His head may be a rule follower, but his heart gets in the way. And that's why he's one of my favorite characters on TV and in literature. Keep up the great work. Looking forward to next week's podcast. That's a lot of X in there. But so, Cherry, you have a lot of really good points.
I know she does. Well, thank you for bringing it to our attention.
We'll try Harcourt from the Mag, he's a rule follower.
He's annoying,
but
too.
He also did kind of bend the rules for James. I guess nobody's a true rule follower.
I guess. I mean, you have to be like flexible in some way. But I mean, she's definitely right about like he's romantic in nature and lets his heart take over. Whereas like I can't let poor little baby puppy Scruff go and get trained.
Down.
Like he's got, just train the dog. This is fine. We'll just train him.
Right. Well, it's the big city ideas coming to the countryside.
How dare we?
But he does. I mean, he does break the rules and not listen to Siegfried quite often. So
I wouldn't listen to Siegfried either if he was my boss.
I mean,
I think I'd be just legit. Like James.
Like I'm going to do it my way and deal with the outcome.
This is the right way to do things. Yeah. So even though you're telling me not to do it, I'm going to do it.
So thank you, Cherry, for writing in.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And if anybody else,
we like to be put straight. So if you have beef with us, please email us at ps@witf.org.
Got beef. I love it. All right, are you ready to dip into some TV testing?
Yeah, so let's get into because this rule following comes into play.
It is.
And the rule bending and all of it.
Yep, this is all about James and Helen. So we start off the episode and we're at the Aldersons' farms. It opens up to a beautiful Derby as usual in Yorkshire Farms.
Of course.
I absolutely love it.
They always do that somewhere in the episode. There's just a wide shot of the beautiful landscape.
And they know where to do it too because they... Like, even in, like, a bad moment, they just put the landscape on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's so nice. Stressful things are happening, but everything's okay.
Yes, exactly. And they're testing cow number 85.
Right.
So he's testing the Aldersons' farm. Now, I wonder how often they have to test because I thought he was the first farm to be tested.
Well, yeah, and Rudd mentioned that the Aldersons can charge more for their milk because they're getting tested. So it must be a regularly occurring testing or an ongoing one. That seems like a lot of work. I thought it was like you visit the farm, they're all negative, you move on.
Well, I mean,
I guess you'd have to come
start
back.
testing in like June?
When did this? I don't remember when the season started.
I think we caught a continuity error. I think we did.
I don't know when this. I don't remember the date that it all started. I honestly do not remember. It's probably in our show notes.
Well, they got married.
Episode 1.
This episode, they got married. This season.
That was, So when did that happen? Spring. It was the spring.
Yeah. It was the spring. So, yeah. It's like, they're like 6 months married.
We probably should have done a deeper dive into how often they did TB testing.
We probably should have.
But we didn't, so it's
Apologies.
okay there.
I think we caught a continuity error. You think we should have did a deeper dive, but
maybe
you know what?
It is regularly occurring.
Yeah, I think I don't know. But to test 85 cows again, all right, whatever. Anyway, so we're on number 85.
There's a lot of cows,
and we're clear. Jenny comes running over talking about the war and everything like that, and then her and Helen end up walking back off to the house.
I think to listen to the radio.
Yeah,
yeah.
But James is not done
testing.
He's not done with the testing.
Right.
So he stays with Mr. Alderson. And then, of course, James's face. He's always thinking. Everything's always written on it.
He's always thinking.
Yeah, right. And Mr. Alderson talks about how James, really shouldn't feel guilty about not going to war. He's very much needed, which is really nice of him to say.
You can't have a farm without vets.
Exactly.
It's, super important to the... And
you
need farming to get through a war. So,
yeah,
legit. All of it's true.
So then James tests another cow, and he doesn't look good.
Right.
And it's all over his face.
It's all over his
Poor
face.
James.
He just wears it all on his face.
Exactly. So the cow might have TB.
And by might, pretty much for sure.
Pretty much for sure.
Yeah.
But it's only, we find out it's 5 millimeters.
Right.
Millimeters.
Right.
And Alderson is just millimeters.
Right. He's like, it's just fine.
Come on.
He's like, well, I can do another test.
Yeah.
So he offers that, but he basically tells him it's not going to be any different.
Yeah, and he has to inform the mag, right?
Yes.
He has to. He has to follow the rules, which Cherry told us he doesn't follow the rules.
But he has to tell mag.
But he has to tell mag because he can't lose his job.
Right.
Because that's what would happen. He'd lose his job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but his father-in-law does not want him to.
Nope.
And I feel for it. And honestly, I feel like Casey would be James in this situation where he's I have to do something. And somebody would be like, no, you can't. And you shouldn't, but James, it's so moral. He has to do it.
Right. He has to do it because his job's on the line, and also it's a safety issue. This is why he got into it. But I also, Richard raises a lot of points. The people who make the rules about farming don't know anything about farming.
That's true.
And I mean, that's true in so many different issues. People who are making the rules don't know anything about the thing they're making the rules about. So
I could get on the soapbox.
I know. I'm not going to get on the soapbox either. I was thinking about all the different things while I was watching. I'm just like, oh man, Richard, I feel you. I feel you so hard right now.
But still, 5 milliliters, if it's tested and it's positive for TB, you still got to get rid of the cow, and you have to shut down and test every single one of those cows again.
Yep.
So I get it. I get both sides.
Yeah.
But then we hear the story about the war from, Richard's past and the first war. And he was worried about how he was going to feed Helen because anybody could go out to war.
Right. Including farmers.
Exactly.
And they had a hard time keeping the food supply up. Mm-hmm. And that's why they excluded farmers this round.
Yes. Because they didn't want the country to go.
But yeah, he talks about he talks about how hard it was with his girls. Yeah, I thought that was nice that they kind of interjected that to give some perspective.
Mm-hmm. I liked it too.
And also, I mean, it plays into his whole wanting James to stay back because he doesn't want to see that happen again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So James is going to do another test. But he arrives home super late. Helen's already asleep. And she did wake up. And he goes, no, we're fine. Go back to sleep. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay. But then tells her not to worry. And on his face, I'm just like, what is he thinking? So my question for you is, what do you think he's thinking about when he says, don't worry and go back to sleep?
Well, you raise a good point about it could be multi-leveled here.
Exactly.
Because he's thinking about joining the war efforts. But also, what made me most angry on rewatching this is that once again, him not telling his wife what's going on ends up almost costing him his job.
I know, we 4
more
more pages of this.
So much stress. He could have just been one of the cows tested positive, and then we could avoid 10 minutes of us talking right now.
But then people wouldn't hear 10 minutes of our voice.
It's true. I was just James,
so true.
When are you going to learn? You just have to tell your wife the things. Just tell
right away.
her everything.
Yeah.
That's marriage, okay?
I know. I know.
Don't tell her if a dress looks weird when they're already out in public. But everything else, you just tell her right away.
Exactly. I agree with you. So then the next morning, Helen wakes up and fills out the documents. I didn't see it on my first time watching, but my second time, I paused and saw that the form was filled out, the B196/PDTVIR.
You're reading it like Harcourt.
I tried my best. He's like a lot more like mean about it. About her family's farm being all clear. She seals it and it's going to go out in the mail. And I'm like,
she doesn't know.
She has no idea. Like, come on, James. But anyway, James is testing and he tells Helen that they found a positive case for TB at one of the cows in her family farm. And she's like, why didn't you wake me up? And like, come on, why not?
Yeah. Why didn't you?
Yeah.
Why didn't you, James?
Or like,
she was
hey,
already
James,
awake.
I was awake. Why didn't you tell me? But then, she's on his side. He has to report it to Mag. It's the right thing to do. And, she even says, like, you have to do this. It's a greater cause.
Yeah, it's a bigger issue, a bigger problem at hand.
Yeah, which is why you're doing this in the first place. So we go back to Alderson's farm with Helen and James. And, of course, your BFF, Malik, is leaving.
Malik. I love James. I love him so much.
Your best friend. I'm sorry you didn't get to see him. Yep. So he's leaving. James and Helen just look at each other and are like, oh, my gosh.
Richard.
Yep. So he put the cow down. And then I like how it's Helen arguing with her father. And James is just watching.
I have a feeling that this has probably happened before in the past, though, with Helen arguing with her father.
I agree with you because she's very well-versed. And I'd be like, what?
Yeah, like, she's just like laying it out for him.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? You can't do this. But it's great. Yeah. Like, she holds people accountable.
She does.
Even if it's her own father.
Right. I mean, I hold my dad accountable most of the time, too. Oh. Maybe that's why I was not surprised to get Helen.
That's true. That's true. So they're arguing. She's holding him accountable for everything that he just did. And then he goes and leaves because she tells him that he has to go call the mag immediately. Right. And then James is here and he says something really sweet.
Just don't be too hard on him. When it comes to the people you love, sometimes judgment goes out the window. You do whatever you can to protect them, no matter the cost.
And he looks directly at Helen. And Helen's like, what does that mean, James?
She's like, I don't need your protecting.
I can handle myself, James. Like,
yeah, she's known for a while that this is coming too.
I know. Yeah. She keeps trying to push it off. Her dad's trying to push it off. And like even Jenny
does. Trying to push it off.
Yeah, because Jenny's like, if since you did this, does that mean that he has to go fight?
Right.
Like she calls him out. Him off. And he's like, oh, crap. I really got to go call Mag right now.
Everybody's trying to keep James at home.
Exactly. So then we see Mrs. Hall tidying up. Okay. And she's tidying up throughout the house. She grabs the envelope and stuff like that and tidying up and everything. And back at Skelldale, we see James and Helen are talking about money, like if her dad would need it, like they have it saved.
That was like legitimately very sweet. However, he's done this to other farms and he didn't offer the money to them. So like, I guess it's lucky Richard knows him. Like,
that's true. Well,
but I mean, it's still
father-in-law.
It's a sweet gesture that he's making, but
it's family.
I think he's finally learning the complexities of this TB testing because now it's affecting somebody directly, like that he loves directly.
That's true.
So there's that at least.
Sometimes you don't know unless it happens to yourself.
Right.
Yep. So we find out here that Mrs. Hall like sent the form about Heston Grange to the mag.
Right.
And stating the form says there's no TB. But
which could have all been avoided had James just told Helen when she woke up in the middle of the night.
Exactly.
But whatever.
Yep. And so Siegfried, Mrs. Hall, James, and Helen, they're all in the kitchen discussing the situation, how best to tell Mag about it. Siegfried goes and says he'll do it. And James is just like, no, I need to do it because it's my wife's farm. It's going to look like me. I have to go to the mag.
Yeah.
Here we are at the mag.
I mean, it is what it would look like.
That's true. Very, very true. So here we are. Helen and James are sitting outside the office, like they're outside the principal's office, or they said headmistress's office.
Headmaster's office. And then Helen's like, you never got in trouble, did you? Someone had to be the teacher's pet.
Sounds right up James's alley. So Helen actually goes into the office with him. And I'm surprised Mr. Harcourt allowed that. Yeah. But I don't know if Helen would allow it
Maybe
otherwise.
She just pushed her way in.
Probably. Give him a little shove here and there. But James does not start out on the right track. Like, he doesn't say the right things. Like, you just describe it from the beginning.
He's He's really bad at like sticking up for himself.
He's like, well, I didn't do the paperwork. And he's like, what? Your wife did it? Like, she's not a veterinarian.
Right.
Like, James, if you just said like,
go in there with a plan.
Yeah.
Practice this on your way to the mag.
Yep. Nope, they didn't. They were probably just sitting there in silence.
Nervous energy.
Exactly. James eventually is able to describe the whole thing that happens, that he never signed the paperwork. Right. So it's null and void.
He's so
don't even
excited.
have to be
He's
here.
like, wait, I never signed it.
Exactly.
So it doesn't mean anything.
It would have just been shredded and he would have been told that he had to return it anyway or do another form. But, this made me, it made my blood boil when Harcourt says to him, kindly control your wife, Harriet, or I shall have to. And I was like, boy,
well,
are you kidding me?
I mean, Helen didn't take it lying down either. So
thank goodness. And her acting is great. She was like, you could tell she is full of anger and rage. Like
she channeled whatever we were feeling.
Oh my gosh. But like her whole body, you could see, is just anger and rage, and she keeps it in so well just to be able to say, like, I would like to say my piece.
I would like to say something right now.
Yeah. Yes. And like trying not to show how mad she is, you know what I mean? And she sticks up for him. James is a good man. He always looks after others, and she's right.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and Harcourt can't really say no to that. It's true. So
and the paperwork wasn't signed. So
they didn't even have to be there.
This conversation never happened.
Exactly.
Just imagine it never happened. So, and then we see the mag is at the Alderson's farm and Richard's signing papers.
They're doing it personally this time.
Yeah, just them, not James. And then there's a sign that says no admittance, farm under restrictions due to bovine tuberculosis.
Yep. And so their farm is closed for maybe a month. That's a long time.
That's a really long time to not have milk to sell.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's your income.
Yeah.
So
with all of that news, let's take another break because, of course, we have to talk about the impending news that we were knowing that was coming.
Yep, it's coming.
And, how Britain is going to war with Germany.
All right, let's do that.
Yay.
We'll be back.
Support for all creatures, great and small, on Masterpiece is made possible locally by WITF members and by Pleasant View Communities, UPMC, Murray, and Argiers Murati Neurosurgical Associates of Lancaster.
Welcome back, and now we're getting into our least favorite topic, the war.
That's why we made it the last one to talk about.
We were putting it off long enough.
We were trying, at least. So we all start off the whole beginning of the episode at the Aldersons, and Jenny actually comes running over with the news of the upcoming war at the Aldersons' farm. And then, as you see, like Derby, throughout the thing, the radio is overplaying, and there's a broadcast, and someone's speaking about what is going on between Britain and Germany right now.
Right, because Chamberlain has given Hitler an ultimatum.
Yes.
I believe was
like
how it started.
It.
Yeah. Stop it or we'll have to do something.
Yeah, please, somebody. So Tristan at Skeldale asks if they think it's actually going to happen. That's when Siegfried goes and says history shouldn't repeat itself, but they are politicians.
Yeah.
And then Mrs. Hall's
yeah, she turns the radio off. She just spent all of the last episode telling Edward that the war wasn't going to happen. So
yeah, that makes sense.
That was salt in the wound right there.
She's like, I'm just not going to
Siegfried's being realistic, and she was trying to be idealistic for her son. But so she turns the radio off.
Yep. And so then we go back to the Aldersons' farm, and this is jumping back and forth because the war is throughout the whole episode when we go back and forth. Jenny is talking to James, Helen, and Richard about the potential to go to war by next week.
Yeah, this is all happening.
This is
suddenly. I mean,
so
they've
scary.
been recruiting, so they should have had some feeling.
I mean, but they've been recruiting the whole season, which is 6 months at this point, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like such a short time.
And I mean, and publicly they were saying it's not going to happen. There's a treaty and all of this. So
that's true. Yeah,
it always takes you by surprise.
Mm-hmm. But you can see James's face while they're at the Aldersons' farm, and he's just thinking and thinking, and I'm like, "What are you thinking, James?"
His need to do what's right
It's
just as Tristan predicted, is driving him.
And in the first 5 minutes, he didn't really say much outside of the TB testing. It's all on his face.
Yeah. Oh,
he
yeah.
doesn't even have to say words for the whole first 5 minutes of this episode. And then Mr. Alderson actually talks to James about how he shouldn't feel guilty about not going to the war and stuff like that. So then we go back to Skeldale.
I mean, he does look guilty. That's the face that he's wearing, is he looks guilty, he's not doing enough.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Like a dog that did something wrong, but he didn't do anything wrong.
Very true. Yeah. Poor James.
Yeah.
So we go back to Skeldale. Doorbell rings, and there's a little pup outside. The name is Dash.
So cute.
This dog is adorable.
She has a floppy face, and I love floppy face.
Wait, is Dash a girl?
Oh, I don't know.
I thought it was a boy. Maybe
it
right.
is I don't know. I guess because I have mostly girl dogs, I just now assume that dogs are girls.
Poor Irving.
But we do call him a good girl now, because that's the trigger word.
There you go. Everybody's a good girl.
But anyways, Dash is here, and Dash is cute.
Yeah, very cute. And Mrs. Hall doesn't understand why, someone would leave the dog behind. Siegfried says they need to track down the owner.
Right.
Dash goes and takes Jess's toy.
Wouldn't go over well with Cece. Cece would have eaten that dog, but...
Oh, I believe it. I'm just happy. The more the dogs, merrier. Right. I'm good with it.
And the dogs are all getting along here, so this is great.
Yep. And Siegfried's face, it says something on it. And I'm like, what is this about? Mm-hmm. Right? So then we have at Skeldale, Mr. Chamberlain back on, he's not on the broadcast. Somebody else is on the broadcast talking about
Mr. Chamberlain, yeah.
And he provided the ultimatum to Hitler, and the prime minister will broadcast to the nation on the morning of the 3rd. And if Germany doesn't cease, there will be war. So,
so that's like a 2-day countdown.
Yep. Yeah. And so we're in September 3rd, right? Just to give us a little bit of a timeline of where we're at.
We started at September 1st, and we go through to September 3rd. So this episode takes place over the course of 3 days. Yeah.
So then we go to Mrs. Pumphrey's, and we talk about Mrs. Pumphrey. She really Tristan's only supposed to be helping out a stray cat here.
Right.
And then we find out that she's working with the Women's Institute to create a war garden, and I honestly wonder how many there were. I feel like it's pretty smart to do that.
Oh, war gardens, you mean? Oh, yeah. There was a whole campaign in America, too, to have a war garden. I remember in the 40s, I remember seeing posters in my propaganda class that I had to take for college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was everywhere, because all of the food production had to be shipped to the troops. To feed them. So you had to grow your own food so that you didn't starve at home.
Well, at least they figured that out. But yeah, okay, that makes sense. I didn't know you learn something new every day. But I thought it was really nice for her to have that. And, it's funny because Tristan goes and says, if it makes you feel any better, I don't imagine Miss Pumphrey Manor is high on Hitler's list of targets, Mrs. P. And she goes, you'll forgive me if I don't take military advice from a veterinarian.
And from Tristan.
And from Tristan, yes, of course. But then she goes and says, if there is a war, I want this place to be a sanctuary, not just for my staff, but for anyone who might need it.
Yeah, that's a little bit of foreshadowing, I think, too. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think so as well. And then I also noticed, is this cat real or fake when he goes to give the cat the shot, the vitamin shot? It was breathing.
Yeah.
You could see the stomach breathe.
Well, it could have been a little, balloon thing.
That's true.
Because cats are usually not that calm when there is a giant needle coming towards them.
You're right. Or anybody coming towards them, for that matter.
Right.
But we talk about Tricky, and we love Tricky, so we have to mention Tricky.
Tricky's there, just flopping around.
Exactly. And then that's when Mrs. Pumphrey says, when you find someone you really care about, you must cling on to them like a life ring in a storm.
Right.
Because you never know what might happen next.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And that was foreshadowing Tristan.
Yeah, that's when he was maybe I'll ask Florence to marry me.
Yes,
because he does mention the life ring in his proposal to her, explaining himself.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Tristan. We love you. Call us.
Yeah, call us. We'll buy your drinks.
So then we're in the car with Helen and James is trying to talk to Helen, and she just goes straight into what did you mean about protecting the people you love?
He's trying not to talk about it.
He's trying.
Yeah.
James deflects, and then Helen,
Yeah. No, I know what you're thinking.
Exactly.
I need to hear it from you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they look outside and they see all of the children evacuees coming off the bus. So it's just another instance of how real it is, like where we're going.
Right. And I took a closer look at the evacuees that were coming in. I actually assumed that the evacuees were Jewish children that they were trying to get out, before Hitler could get his disgusting claws on them.
Yeah.
And it's actually evacuees from cities in the UK, so like London, like targets that would have been
cities.
Bombing targets. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So rural locations like Derby were thought to be safer, and that's why Mrs. Pumphrey is probably preparing her house to be a sanctuary. So they would they actually sent out kids, women, infants, and the infirm, so people who were not well. The first wave started on September 1st, which is when this episode kicks off. And over 3 days, which is how long this episode was, 1.5 million people were evacuated. So
that's a lot of
people. Evacuation was voluntary. Adults who accompanied the children wore armbands identifying them as volunteer marshals. And 17,000 members of the Women's Voluntary Service helped look after evacuees at railway stations, providing refreshments and reception areas.
We saw that last episode.
And and the volunteers, like Mrs. Pumphrey, hosted the evacuees.
So only the kids and the elderly and the infirmed were...
Right. Yes.
So the parents had to stay home.
Parents stayed home. Yeah, they actually had posters because after months of the war going on and there were no bombings, mothers obviously wanted to bring their children home because they thought they should be home. They're safe here. And they did like posters with like a ghost of Hitler whispering, bring them back over the mom's shoulder. They're kind of like crazy.
Oh my gosh.
There will also be a link to this source in the show notes because you can see the poster. Like there's so much more information there. I found it interesting that parents were asked to pack basic necessities like toothbrushes, underclothes, night clothes, slippers, stockings, the usual.
Yeah.
But also a gas mask, just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
So, yeah, that was my closer look.
I can't imagine sending my kid away and then, like, not even knowing where they are.
Right.
It's not like I can...
Well, I don't know if they didn't know where they were necessarily. I think they could visit, probably, but...
Okay. But, they had to stay. They couldn't live.
Right. And the parents didn't go with them.
I don't know. I just move.
It would be hard.
I just shack it up in a car or something. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do it either.
It's so hard.
I can't even be away from my dogs for too long.
I know.
Like human children, I probably wouldn't be able to do that.
My goodness. I don't know. Thank you for sharing that, though. So when we're back at Skeldale, they're talking at the breakfast table about the mag and if there was any update on the impending war. We see Dash. Tristan tells Siegfried to ask Mrs. Pumphrey to take Dash because Siegfried's still trying to... Yeah. And then the radio cuts in and then they announce on the radio and the broadcast that the country is at war with Germany.
Yep. They did not meet their deadline to step in line.
Mm-hmm. And now the whole family is just silent. And it's just their silence is loud.
Yeah. I remember watching 9/11 happen in high school and nobody said a word. Mm-hmm. The silence was so loud.
Yeah.
We were just watching it happen on the TV. So it's similar to that, I feel like.
They
where
put
it's
it on
just
TV in your school, right?
I snuck into the band room to watch it. They actually blocked all of the websites and everything.
Yeah.
But I snuck into the band room where the band instructor was watching it and I was just sitting there oh my God, the whole time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
My mom picked me up and took me home.
Oh, that was nice.
Was really nice.
That would have been nice if they gave people the option, but we were just stuck at school the whole time. Also, I wasn't in a large city, so rural areas are less of a target. That was probably the reasoning.
Huh. Okay. So then we're outside, and you see Mrs. Hall beating the rugs.
Oh, she is taking all of her aggression out on those rugs.
Because now her son has to go to war.
And she just made amends with him. Mm-hmm. And he's writing letters, and it's real sweet.
Yeah. And then we go to Derby, where Tristan and James are just outside of Skeldale, Derby, the town, right inside. Tris is so sweet and tells James that James tells Tristan that he's a good man. And, I think so too.
Yeah.
But there's so many statements and so little words, you're like a brother to me, James. And then James says, you say that no one's going anywhere.
Right.
I'm like, except James, because James is allowed to leave. Like, what? James is allowed to leave, nobody else. So then we see Siegfried and Dash, and Siegfried is trying to have Mrs. Pumphrey take Dash from him.
Right. She comes to the practice to take him.
Yeah, and Tricky kind of looked like a stuffed animal in her arms. I was very confused if it
Tricky
was
kind of
Derek
always looks like a stuffed animal.
You're right.
So.
Maybe it was Derek. I don't know. The way she was holding him, I was like, this dog should have like bent over and
maybe
fell,
Derek needed a vacation.
Maybe. I don't blame him. But you know, Mrs. Hall tries to walk away, and Dash is just like,
follows her.
Nope,
Yep.
I'm staying. And you know, that's the connection, and it's something for her to have.
Dash picked her.
She did.
The minute Dash showed up, I was like, well, that's Mrs. Hall's dog.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
100%. So then James and Helen are upstairs, and Helen keeps trying to talk to him and get him to like just talk to her. Finally, she brings up that, like, seeing the children get off the bus made her realize that the only rational human response is to try and stop what's going on. Mm-hmm. And she gets it.
She knows.
So she understands. And so James, like, you know, he doesn't know who he is if he doesn't try to just put himself forward and sign up.
He has to do something.
He has to try.
He feels like he needs to do something that makes him feel useful beyond the TV testing. Like, I get it. I like to be useful too in awful situations.
So. It's like, what can you do? Like, I need to do something, so I might as well try, and then they can tell me no, but at least I tried.
Right.
So downstairs we have James telling Siegfried that he has to at least try up, or he has to at least try to sign up. And he leaves to go to the courtyard in the center of town where the line is for recruiting. Mm-hmm. Siegfried looks like so sad.
Oh, yeah.
Tristan is just
he's been trying to stop this from happening all season.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The whole time. Tristan is like, I'm going too, like all over his face. Like James walks out and Tristan follows him. And I'm like, he's going to sign up.
Yeah, I didn't put two and two together, but
he had to have. He's got to go find himself.
He didn't walk away.
Yeah.
He stood by James the whole time.
Yep. So, and Siegfried and Mrs.
And if
Hall,
he can't have Florence,
might as well
go.
Yeah, try to find himself. Siegfried and Mrs. Hall are having their moment, talking about, like, you know, Siegfried's going to be nicer to Tristan.
Yeah.
And that the bells stopped ringing last time they went to war. And I'm guessing they're church bells, but I also wanted to know, like, why they stopped ringing them.
Right.
And actually, our intern, Amy, has found out. So can you share that with us, Amy?
Yeah, I'd love to. So in my research, I found out that during the years of the Great War, bell ringing had been severely curtailed by the Defense of Realm Act, or DORA. And DORA prevented the ringing of church bells and imposed restrictions on bonfires and after notable lights, which they thought that it would, like, signal enemy soldiers or spies. They were worried that, like, the bells ringing would, like, the town is occupied.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. So it was really just a safety precaution for, like, the people within the villages to make sure, like, they didn't expose that there were people there. But something else about that, like, even in Westminster, like, Big Ben went silent at one point during the Great War. So from 1914 to 1917, Big Ben was silenced, which is, like, crazy to think about.
Wow.
But yeah, so on November 23rd of 1917, the church bells rang out across the country in celebration for the first time during the war, following the success of the assault by tanks in the Battle of Cambrai. So that is about the bell ringing.
That was probably the most beautiful sound in the world, to finally hear all the church bells ringing again, like,
probably
signifying the end of a war. Oh,
they're probably
I'm
so
getting chills
happy.
just thinking about it. I'm getting chills this episode.
Yep. Oh my gosh, that makes me think of Game of Thrones when he says ring the bell and it's peace. And so they ring the bell and then, you know, things go down. But you didn't watch.
I did not watch.
And
no, I'll never watch it
for people who did not, even though it's been out for years. But
whoever wanted to watch it has probably watched it by now. But you haven't watched New Girl yet, and you need to watch that. So.
I do. Yeah, you do spoil that for me all the time. I'm just kidding. All right. Anyway, so Siegfried and Mrs. Hall, they grab hands, and I bet you were so excited.
Is another, like, oh my God, there have been so many Easter eggs where I'm just like, they are nodding towards them getting together eventually. I just feel like there can be no other way around it. When push comes to shove, she's comfortable at Skelldale House. She told Gerald she doesn't want to leave Skelldale House. She likes it there. And now both of their hands are holding each other in this moment of like just terror. They're going to get together. That's my prediction.
Yeah. And then we see Helen in the house on the steps, and she's so sad to know that she just married, literally married
she was
the love
at
of her
her
life.
high.
And
now he's going.
And he's going.
Potentially. He's signing up.
Because it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
And
that's why she married him.
Exactly. Yeah. And then James tells Tris that he should leave, but Tristan just pats him on the shoulder.
And stays right by his side.
And now I have chills all over my body. I was tearing up when I was watching it the first time, and I can't believe this is where we're at. This is how they end this season. And why did they do this to us?
I'm kind of scared about the Christmas episode because the Christmas episode has always been kind of light and fluffy and enjoyable, but I don't know how they're gonna do that.
I don't know. Well, it might be I don't know. We can.
Have you watched the Christmas episode yet? Because I haven't looked ahead yet.
Neither have I.
Okay.
But let's assume that maybe if they do sign up and they do go to war, that it's the Christmas episode and it's light and they're and having their last meal,
yet.
kind of
last meal.
No, I'm sorry.
What are you doing to me?
Your face.
What are you doing? I need to date Tristan.
Their last meal before they go.
Right. Okay.
Go and train and get ready and hopefully not go to war. Hopefully they're not sent
maybe
out,
they won't be called, but
hopefully. But anyway. Oh my gosh, what a tough episode.
I am nervous. I don't know how they're going to do season 4 because this show has been a balm for our soul for so long that I'm a little bit nervous.
I know.
How are they going to do nervous this whole time? And they've balanced it pretty well.
Do you think they could time jump? I don't know. If they do go into service, maybe they'll just time jump. They're back 4 years later.
3 hours later.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to make a season that's not almost all heavy.
I don't know.
While they're at war. I hope there's more tricky. Mrs. Pumphrey's going to be a sanctuary. That's pretty much predicted.
Oh, yeah,
so we might see some of that.
Yeah.
And that would be a hopeful storyline.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm nervous.
I don't know. I'm nervous too. Oh, goodness.
Well, okay. So thanks for listening along to another episode of Postscript. What a finale.
I know. I agree. I can't believe we only have the Christmas episode left.
Yeah. If you have any guesses as to what will happen next or reactions if you've already watched, email them to us at ps@witf.org, or you can send us a message on social media on Instagram at WITFORG and Facebook at WITF.org.
Yes, thank you. And we want to thank our intern, Amy, for taking a special closer look on the bells.
Yes, thank you, Amy.
Thank you. And this podcast was produced by Amorós for WITF. I'm Beth Cappello.
And I'm Christina Zeiders. Catch you next time for Season 3 Christmas episode.
We'd like to thank Pleasant View Communities, UPMC, Murray, Argiers Maradi Neurosurgical Associates of Lancaster, and WITF members for supporting all creatures great and small on WITF. Thank you.